Oi, Internet, it's Jake, and today on Mini Terrain Domain, I'm gonna finally finish teaching you the arts of dwarven stonecraft. Alright, as you can see here, I've already black bombed the piece, and I'm going to be using pavement. I'm doing a wet brush, but not too wet. I don't want to get down on the cracks. I want to make sure the cracks pop through. This is going to be the secondary base coat and the primary stone color. And I'll also do this to the stone wall sections that we did earlier. Ultimately, these stone wall sections are not going to get the full treatment that the fireplace will, but they'll still look pretty cool in the end. Now, I'm going to be using a few different shades here. I've got some light granite gray, I've got a territorial beige, I have Tuscan red, and I have bright blue. These colors are to simulate various river stones that a builder might pick up deliberately to use in the construction of their project. So all I'm going to do is, using a fine flat brush, just my personal preference, I'm just picking out certain stones that I want to color. And I just clean up with a little paper towel and toothpick where I got it on the wood. So we don't want that showing through on the wood grain. And I'm just going to go through the entire piece and pick out each one that I want to be this blue color. You don't want too many, and you want them evenly spaced out. And we're going to move on to the Tuscan red. The same principle applies. Again, imagine that you're the one that's building this. How would you space out the stones if you were actually building this in this world? And I use the flat brush because it gives me a little more control over these, but you may find that a round brush or a little more pointed brush might work better for you. I'm just going for a complement to the bright blue pieces. And again, we're moving on to the territorial beige. Now you could choose to use even more colors than the 4 that I did. You could do variations in subtler shades, but you're going to see that I'm going to take the flatness and the brightness out of these in just a little bit with some dry brushing. So some of those more subtle changes might be lost. And you want to make sure when you're doing the pieces on the edges that you go all the way around to any part that is visible. And again, just spacing them out. Finally, we're going to use this granite gray. Pick a few more out, and I'm going to leave the dark pewter gray, or excuse me, pavement gray, that was our base, on a few of the stones as well. Ultimately, you just want to have a nice balance between all of your colors. I think of it as a paint by numbers and miniature, even though there's no numbers here. And excuse my fat head getting in the way. Now, this next step is I'm using a lighter shade of gray. I believe it's dolphin gray. I'm using a really dry, stiff bristle brush. And I'm just dry brushing across the surface of the whole thing. Because I want to give it that just kind of a overall kind of a weathered look to it. And it's going to mute out the brighter colors, and it's going to make that darker grays even out as well. And I'm using a brown on the wood piece for the mantle. I believe this is actually true brown. And then I come in over top of that with a little bit drier brush of the same territorial beige that I used on the stones. And I'm just gonna kind of go along and highlight some of that wood grain. Nice stiff bristled brush again. And finally, I like to come in with the linen, which is a really light colored beige, and just hit the edges. That makes it look like a nice worn piece of wood. For the final step, I'm using black and a stiff brush, and you can see I'm just stippling it across the paper towel here. And I'm just going to stipple all along the interior here. It's going to give us a nice kind of burnt stone smokiness along the hearth and the inside of the fireplace where smoke damage would naturally occur. This is a nice little weathering touch. As you can see, using the techniques I have shown you in this video, and with a little bit of basing and flocking material, you can do wonderful stonework projects to use in your miniature builds wherever you see fit. Thank you for watching, and remember, imagine, build, play.